Hey, welcome. I am here with Robert, also goes by RC, and we're just here to have a quick little conversation, basically about a little bit about your life, a little about things you've learned in your life, maybe, where you're from and so on. So just first things first, what comes to your mind? What would you like to maybe share, with the audience? Who are you? I mean, where are you from?
Well, I moved to Sarasota in 1969.
Okay.
And I've
From
been
where?
From Texas, and before that I was in Indiana.
Okay.
But that was childhood.
Yeah.
And I'm 63 years old now. And what I've learned is the only reason we ever get mad is because people, places, or things aren't what we want them to be.
So they don't meet our expectations of what they should be.
Right, or they don't meet what we desire them to be.
Yeah.
So we get angry and we respond in a negative way.
Yeah. Well, so that brings me to a question. You told me in our conversation that we had, which by the way, I've enjoyed talking to you. You told me that you've been homeless here in Sarasota, Florida since February, I think you said, right?
Currently, yes.
Okay. In that time, were you expecting it to be different being homeless, or did it meet the expectation?
Actually, I didn't expect to be homeless.
Okay.
I expected to come out and be with the girl that I was with prior to going in to prison. Mm-hmm. And it was I got a Dear John letter basically, and when I came to Sarasota, I had no place to go. When I hit the Legacy Trail in my wheelchair, which was not a power chair at the time, and wheeled about 30 miles in 3 days, and was kind of tired and just didn't know what I was going to do, and
now turned
it over basically. Just started praying again. And
what's easier, what's harder, and how is it easier being in prison, which I think you said 4 years or so, or is it easier, being on the street?
Well, being on the street and being in prison are totally different, because being in prison, even though I believe in God and I trust in Him, I still had fears of being preyed upon, especially being in a wheelchair.
In prison? In prison,
yes.
Gotcha.
But people treated me different because I treated them with respect and kindness and understanding, and I try to treat everybody with that now. Being on the street, I face different frustrations and not really fears. Hunger is the issue some mornings, but I have no longer have the what is the word I'm looking for? It's a revulsion to diving in a dumpster, digging something out with my cane, and munching on it because it was just put in there, because I pay attention to when things are put in, so I don't get sick.
Right. Now, would you say there was a benefit that you got personally in your journey, whether it's spiritual, whether it's a trait that you acquired, whether it's a street smart that you learned? Was there any benefits to being in prison?
Yeah, there was. It gave me time to reflect, and I also joined a Kahal and became a Messianic Jew.
Okay.
Accepted that I was a Messianic Jew.
Yeah.
Not that I became that.
Right.
Being a wild olive branch and being grafted in makes me a Jew anyway. I just have to recognize that.
And before this last time that you were in prison, this 4 years, you never considered Judaism?
No, I did not. I was more concerned about fitting in, being part of not a group, but being accepted, being cared about, and belonging to a quote religion,
Well, the sense of belonging, I think, is, you know, the reason why most people do things, like that's why teenagers do what teenagers do, is they want to be accepted in the group. That's why young adults, some of them work hard and hustle all day to be accepted by the ones that they respect, which probably do the same thing. And you know, does it ever end? Maybe.
I don't know, because I still do it today.
Right. we I know I do, you know, and maybe there is a level of wisdom that we'll get one day to show us that truly acceptance of others is not it.
No, I've been a caregiver and a people pleaser most of my life.
Okay.
And it never got me anywhere.
Yeah. Well, you've given people things because you took care of people, right?
Yes.
So you've helped people in a sense, although maybe
I still help people today. I go out to the disaster, to the FEMA station, and I pick up water and tarps and bring them back to other people. I towed them around in my wheelchair and pass them out. Like yesterday when you saw me and didn't realize we were going to meet today. I had some food and some rice in my lap that I was repurposing, because being on the street and not living at a camp, just sleeping on the sidewalk, I don't have a way of cooking.
Right.
So I hate to see waste.
Yeah.
I hate to see waste. It's what's the word? God gives us these gifts and yet we throw them away.
Exactly. Which I do have a question here. I just noticed, we've been talking for a little while here, but I just noticed that you have a fishing rod. And living in Sarasota, we got some good fishing here, right? This was traditionally a fishing town 100 years ago.
Right.
Do you go fishing?
I was fishing until I broke all the line off my pole.
Oh,
it snagged on the concrete and spooled off my reel, and I got a new spool of line, but my chair had bad batteries and bad wheels, and I just got those fixed at the beginning of this month. Got new batteries, got new wheels, and now I can start working on tackle and but I carry so much with me. You know, this chair is rated at 300 pounds, and I carry at least 300 pounds of stuff on it every day.
Is this everything you own? Is this
basically? Yeah. I don't have a place where I stash anything. I don't have a storage unit or anything. It's just everything I carry is what I have.
Gotcha.
And
well, let me ask you a couple questions that I've come up with. Just a couple, literally two. One is like, what do you remember about your life growing up?
Abuse.
Okay. Physical abuse, like hitting?
There was some of that. There was sexual abuse, emotional abuse. It was all very traumatizing. I remember my mother going out on dates, and I was about 12 years old, and I would sit at home crying, thinking she wasn't coming home. Fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
You know, and that came from my father leaving when I was 6, and never calling or visiting or sending cards or anything like that. It was just.
Did you ever get to reconnect with your dad in your whole life?
My brother called him on my 16th birthday, and I spoke to him at that time, and 5 years later he passed away in a trucking accident, so I never really got to know him, even though everybody said, oh, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't a great guy to me.
Yeah, and you know what? We can do that as humans, right?
Yes.
We can be a great guy to many, many, many people, but we could be an absolute jerk, or not even be aware that we're being a jerk to
somebody else. Yeah. That cares that might be a connection we need.
Yeah, because I feel like the people that are put into our life, especially the family that you were born into, or that you gave birth to, or contributed in our case as men, are by design, right? They were those souls, those humans were by design, and sometimes they're challenging, right? I mean, who doesn't have a challenging family member, right?
True.
Sometimes they're by choice, friends.
And sometimes, like me, even though we want to do the best, we still make bad decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not like you. It's like every human being in the world, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know a single human that doesn't make bad decisions.
My son and I haven't spoken in 7 years. He's in his mid-30s. He has 2 children, so I have 2 grandchildren. I know my grandson, but I've never met my granddaughter. And the last time I heard anything from them or about them was that he hated me. And I love him. I don't care whether he hates me or not.
Yeah.
I still love him, even though I've made bad decisions. He just doesn't want me influencing his family. And in ways I understand that.
Yeah.
And I respect him.
Have you come to peace with that?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Yeah, because it's funny. When we're in our 20s and 30s, we hold a lot more resentment. We hold like, oh, this event happened to me, whatever the event is. Maybe you yelled at them, right? Not you, maybe somebody, his neighbor yelled at him, or maybe someone told him a story about you, right? And we keep these as fact, as if you don't change from day to day. Right. And guess what? I'm not the same as I was yesterday.
No.
We all change. So the one thing that I try to focus on, and I gotta say, I'm naturally pretty good at it, and I'm very grateful that I am wired a little this way, is to not hold on to resentments, right? To the wrongs that have been done on me. I know that whoever it was, they're not the same anymore, and they might have regret, and even if they don't, even if they're proud of doing that, even if it's like the other extreme, right? That's okay, because they're not the same anymore, and this was all part of the plan. It was, and whatever that was, I don't need to know I don't need to understand God's plan for putting me through something, right? But I do think that our platonic family, the family I was born into, I have two brothers. I have both my parents alive, and that's all of us. All my grandparents died. I have no uncles, no cousins, nothing. So we're all here for a reason. I was given those two brothers for a reason. They are not me. They're different.
Exactly.
Right? And whatever they do or say or believe, some of us have different beliefs.
Of course.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm tested to accept that. And that's why I asked, have you kind of like accepted that? Are you holding on?
Well, I came to realize that when I hold resentment and anger and frustration and fear, the only person it harms is me. I've had 8 heart attacks, 2 pulmonary embolisms, and an aortic aneurysm, and I'm still here.
Yeah. And how old are you?
63.
63 years old.
Worked hard all my life, and now it's God sends people to me. I don't have, I'm in a wheelchair and I wheel around, but I don't wheel up to people. People come to me. And I speak to them, and I just tell them what he has shown me and what he's done for me, and if it changes their lives or helps them make a decision, that's on them and on God. Because I'm here for a reason. I don't always know what that reason is. I want to know. I always want to know. Why am I here? But I found a letter in the parking lot the other day off a car. And I said, I found the biggest question ever. It was a why.
Why? That's right. That's the biggest question. Isn't it though? Like, why? And I don't. It's good to have comfort in knowing the answers to questions, because as humans, we just want to know. Like, if a child dies, we just want to know why. It might be an accident, but just knowing, or like if someone disappears, we just want to know what happened to them. We just like to know, because not knowing is more anxiety, because we can create all these stories, right? We create things in our head,
we
imagine what could happen, and they're usually not good things, Now, what do you see yourself? You're young. To me, you're young. 63. Like, people are literally living another 40 years where we live in Sarasota.
Yes,
this is
exactly.
like, you're at the median age. Actually, Sarasota's median age is 59. Right? You're just a couple years older than that. Let's just assume, regardless of all your heart attacks, regardless of everything, let's just assume you have another 40.
God's healing ability is
right. Well, let's
greater than we understand.
That's true, and I agree with that. But let's say you have another 40 years, right? 40. I mean, that's quite an astonishing thing. Statistically, you have another 20 years, because I
Right.
think men live to about 78, 79, something like that, right? So 15, 20 years. What do you see? Like, what do you see for your life? Do you have any dreams? Do you have anything that you would like to see? If you were to ask for something, whether it's from a person or from God or something, knowing that you're going to live another 40 years, you know, what would you like? What do you see?
For myself, I don't really, have any major aspirations or desires except to reconnect with my son.
To reconnect with your son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to.
That's a great aspiration. That's a really good aspiration. And the funny thing is, we never know when someone is ready.
Right.
We only know when we're ready to
That's
make
true.
the effort, right?
Yeah.
And it's a weird analogy I'm going to put to, but it's like I'm a real estate agent, okay? I
Okay.
prospect for business. I call people I know.
Right.
I call people, however often, twice a year, 4 times a year. I never know if they're going to have a situation, a flood. We just had floods, right?
Right, yeah.
A couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago. And they need help. Or maybe something happened with their insurance policy and they got dropped and they have a major problem now. They're experiencing a major problem. It may not be a major problem because I may have the solution or help, or at least guide them, right?
Right.
But if I don't call and talk to them and see if they're ready for some help,
Right.
then I'll never know, right? Because it's a small chance they're going to call me for help.
That's true.
So I'll just like leave that thought with that, where you never know when he's ready. Because
Right,
if
well-
that's something you would like, hey,
He may see this video and decide.
that's true too. That's true too. And frankly, you may have a moment of inspiration to text him and just say, hey, just want to tell you I'm thinking about you, right? You never know, right? And you never know where things will lead. And that's part of the beauty of life, right?
Well, I think about him every day, but
Yeah.
I don't let it stop me from doing what I have to do.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Is his mom alive?
Yes.
Okay. Is he in touch with her?
I haven't spoken to him in 7 years, so I
Okay,
don't know.
so I'm not sure. Gotcha. Where's he at? Is he in
He's down in
Sarasota?
Venice.
In Venice. Okay.
Yeah, so he's close.
Too far to ride, but
Well, the
but-
bus goes down there, so.
Oh, okay.
Right,
I
but-
didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. Well, I do hope you reconnect. I do have one other question I wrote down. Okay, this is totally different mindset now.
All right, let me clear my mind.
So, being that you actually went to prison, you might have a little more insight with this because of all the people that you've talked to, right? But if there was, where is it? Here it is. If there is something currently outlawed that you think should be legalized, is there something out there that's currently outlawed that people can get in trouble for and all that, but you think, from what you've seen and your experience in life, it shouldn't be outlawed?
Well, they're changing the one that I was big on, which was marijuana,
Yeah.
because of its therapeutic value. But currently, it's just so many that they haven't taken off the books.
So many things that are outlawed that are still outlawed, like, and you feel they're unfair.
Well, they don't fit the time.
Okay.
They're called blue laws, a lot of them.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this.
Well, one of the blue laws is that a convicted felon, when they get out of prison, are to be given a pistol, a horse, and a saddle.
they are not to, or
No, they are to
they
be
are
given
to.
that. They don't adhere to that,
Right.
of course,
Right.
because it's illegal for a felon to own a gun
Yeah.
now.
Interesting.
But in the 1800s, when you got out, that was your only means of taking care of yourself and supporting yourself, was having a horse as your transportation,
Yeah.
a saddle, which is to ride it,
Yeah.
and a gun to kill your food.
Wow.
So
What an
it no
interesting
longer
law.
fits the times,
That's
but they're
right.
blue laws.
Gotcha.
And
Well, we were talking earlier, and you had mentioned, just a thought that I had, you had mentioned that, trespassing 3 times in your life, I presume, or maybe within a certain time frame.
In your county.
In your county, okay, is like an arrestable offense.
Right. You get sentenced to 11 months, 29 days.
Which to me sounds kind of not fair.
It's harsh.
Right.
It's harsh.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, you should go like, I don't know,
30 days.
Clean the property that you're
you get
refusing to
community
trespass.
Service or 30 days. Something small.
Yeah.
But
And then being that it's under a year, you're not a felon.
Right. It's not under a year. You don't do state time.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're in jail,
right?
Local
In
jail,
county jail,
as opposed to
state
prison.
time.
Yeah. Where were you in the prison?
I was shipped around a few times. I was Washington CI, which has been condemned for years. They just changed the name.
Okay.
It
where is
was
that?
black mold. It's up in Washington County, just outside of Panama City.
Okay, gotcha. So in the Panama.
And then they sent me to Lake Butler, which is a medical facility.
Okay.
And then I was sent to Columbia CI, which is in Columbia County.
Okay.
And the whole reason I was shipped around was because I was assaulted while being in a wheelchair by a sergeant. And he handcuffed me, and I fell on the floor because they was trying to force me to walk to medical, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Which was like 1/8 of a mile away.
Yeah.
And
right.
he stood on the back of my leg and pulled up on the handcuffs and was yelling at me to stand up and walk.
Yeah.
And there was 20 inmates around me watching, and he all of a sudden got upset, and his father was a member of that team as well. Mm-hmm. So he worked at the same prison.
Oh, okay.
So it was they shipped me out before I could file charges against him for abuse upon the elderly and the disabled.
Yeah, gotcha. And I think that kind of story is one I've heard before, right? I've heard before, not necessarily like how it was done, but just it's
a common occurrence.
Power over the prisoners is it's like, even if you study history, in World War II, I'm Polish, right? I was born in Poland, and we went back to Poland about 7 years back or so, and we went to visit Auschwitz, right? Which is the concentration camp for the Jews, where the most popular one, let's say, right?
Behind the wire.
Yeah. And what did I learn? That when people are put into power, it started with the German officers, but then the German officers would take a prisoner, a Jewish prisoner, and put him into, under power, like a superintendent of the domain of this. Maybe he was responsible for getting everyone to go to the bathroom, and everyone had, I think, 10 seconds to go to the bathroom, and it was a line, literally, click. Everything was synchronized, or maybe it was 20 seconds, but either way, that's all it was.
Right.
If you had to go to use the restroom, that's your only time of day to do it, right? But no one had to because they weren't feeding them. So eventually, and what I learned in my tour of Auschwitz was that the Jewish superintendents, they basically got to buy a little bit of time for their life.
Right.
But they are the ones that committed some of the worst things, because they were being overlooked at by the Nazis, but those Nazis didn't care to put rules into stopping abuse. They just were like sitting back safe with the gun in case anyone misbehaves, right? And I learned, I mean, it would have been somebody, right? But because they just allowed it and encouraged it, it became like it wasn't even the officer that was doing the worst of the worst. It was the prisoners that were doing the worst of the worst. And just when people get put into power, sometimes they abuse it.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, in both prison system and concentration camps. It's just unfortunate. But it's like human behavior is just a little weird that way. Mob mentality or entitlement mentality.
Those in power tend to take more power.
That's a good one. I like that saying. I like that. I haven't heard that one before, but I see it, you know. So let's kind of just wrap it up. Let me ask you, if you were to watch this video and you were, 25, maybe doing some drugs and kind of starting down the wrong path, what would you, maybe there is somebody watching that's 25. Do you have any message for them? What kind of wisdom can you spread, whether it's from your experience or something you know about, or maybe something that you read in religious scripts? I mean, anything really.
Yeah, the only time people really use illicit drugs and abuse them is when they have a problem and they don't know the cure or the answer, and it snowballs and they feel emotionally broken, that they seek a way to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
And drugs aren't that way. They deaden the pain for a little while, and then you have a craving for more because the pain comes back.
Yeah.
And the best ways that I know of is through prayer and others.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
share
other
your pain.
human beings.
You share your pain with others, and it becomes less.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? How sharing, I'm a big believer of this. Sharing your experience with others not only helps you, but it helps them, because they get to hear, they get to be a little more compassionate towards you. They get to learn from your mistakes, right? Or other people's mistakes.
If they can.
Right. Not always. It's not like always, right?
Yeah, it's not a cure-all.
But it rarely hurts people, It may be painful to share.
Right. Yeah.
Get that.
I was.
But that's a healthy pain.
Yeah, I was close to tears, and speaking of my family and my son,
Yeah.
and the emotional stress that causes.
Yeah.
But by sharing it, it's not going to weigh on me today.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to go use over it.
Yeah. Listen, Robert, I am so grateful that we met. I'm so glad everything transpired from yesterday, like I shared with you, to
today,
right now.
yes.
I really, really do appreciate you taking the moment, to talk to all of us here. But really, I'm thanking you for talking to me, because I don't do this often.
And I have never
so
done
glad.
this before.
I'm so glad I stopped to talk to you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Let me stop this, and I really do mean